Hello everyone, welcome to this tropical update. Before we get into the video, I would like to make it clear that I am not a meteorologist. The opinions shared are mine and are not official. It should not be taken as official. Fiona intensified into a hurricane earlier this morning south of Puerto Rico, and it moved towards the northwest and barely made a landfall along the southwestern part of the island. And it's made a bit of a bend towards due west recently. But we'll get to that later as we look at radar. Right now we can look at the storm's structure on infrared, and we can see that the center of the storm is about right here, and that is embedded within cold wrapping convection. And this is a sign that the storm is healthy, and we can see that convection is blowing up around the center in the eye wall. We can also see that the storm does have a strong band that connects to it, and this is helping to induce further rainfall across the already extreme amount of rainfall across Puerto Rico. We can see some downsides with the storm, though, as we can see a dry slot that has formed recently. But this is not the main issue, as this could actually help the storm by taking the energy away from the band and allowing the storm to focus more on its inner structure. However, we can see that there is some cloud motion towards the northeast, and this is indicative that there is some shear affecting the cyclone. And this is due to some shear from a trough that is situated over the Bahamas. And while this is helping to increase outflow from the storm, it is imparting some shear onto the cyclone, and we can see this from the recon mission, where from an earlier pass, we can see that the pressure, excuse me, let me change the color of my marker. We can see that the pressure did drop, but while the pressure did drop, you would normally expect the winds to start dropping as well shortly thereafter. We can see that the wind did continue increasing and reach a peak before it dramatically fell to a minimum. We can see this in the most recent past as well, although not as severe, where the falls between the pressure and winds were relatively similar. We can see that there is some misalignment between them. We can also see that the wind and pressure did see a steep downfall, and this tells us that the core of the storm is small. And as well as the size of the core, we can see that there was significant temperature spikes in the core. So while the mid-level center and the low-level center aren't well aligned, this does indicate that the storm is still likely to strengthen. We can see the core size from recon, where they measured the eye to be about 10 nautical miles in diameter. This is a small size for an eye, and is actually just slightly above the criteria for a pinhole eye. We can see the small core on radar, where we have the eye wall right here, and within that eye wall we can see the small eye of the storm. Now within that eye we obviously have the center of the storm itself, and this center has moved in a west-northwestward direction. And due to this, the storm is likely to make landfall along the far eastern Dominican Republic. So this could cause some issues with the forecast later down the road, but it is not likely to go far enough towards the west where it gets heavily disrupted by the mountains. We can also see on radar, where we have this band, that while the storm is leaving the vicinity of the island, heavy rainfall is still continuing to be pushed onto the island, and as I said earlier, this is only adding extra rainfall onto an already way too much amount. On this model initialization, we can see the environment of the storm, where we have the small trough feature right here, and we can see the divergence associated with this. We can see that as we go out further in time, The shear from that trough does begin to diminish somewhat. However, between the storm and a strong upper level ridge, there is another troughiness area that begins to develop, and this will also add some shear onto the storm. However, we can see this model does strengthen the storm into a rather low pressure, probably into a Category 4 hurricane on here. We can see that the wind is moving towards the northeast as a rather strong inflow of wind as well. However, as the storm gains latitude, it will speed up as well, and this is also heading northeast along with the shear. So this should allow the storm to strengthen anyway, because it aligns more with the shear vector, and this lessens the effect from the shear. We can see this in the models, where the models strengthen the storm into a major hurricane nearing Category 4 intensity. The National Hurricane Center's forecast takes note of this, where a little after noon on Tuesday, the storm is forecast to become a major hurricane and strengthen to an intensity close to the upper median of the models, which is nearly Category 4 intensity. Now, the category in itself is not that significant. Winds obviously are a threat the higher you go, but that is not what we want to focus on right now, as while we do have hurricane warnings, tropical storm warnings in effect, once again, rainfall is the main threat down here. We also have tropical storm warnings for the Turks and Caicos Islands, and while no alerts are in effect right now, interests in Bermuda should monitor this storm, as it comes without a doubt that a major hurricane forecast to pass close to the island will bring some significant effects in terms of rain, wind, swells, etc. That is all I have for today, and as always, please consult your local officials for the best information about how you can stay safe. And do monitor the progress of this storm, as this forecast is very prone to changes. And if the storm does track more over the Dominican Republic, this will put the storm on a track that aligns itself more with the Turks and Caicos Islands. And further down the road, this could steer the storm a little away from Bermuda, but putting the storm closer to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So, anywhere from Bermuda to Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, you all need to monitor this storm as it happens and for the future. Thank you all for watching. Have a good rest of your day.